Apologetics is the discipline within Christian theology where the goal is to provide a rational defense for the Christian faith. And Christian scholars have identified 4 different approaches to engage in the apologetics enterprise. One of them is called existentialism. Travis, could you help me understand what existentialism is and why somebody might want to use this approach, and what are some of the drawbacks with existential apologetics?
Existentialism is associated with names like Soren Kierkegaard, Karl Barth, Emil Brunner, and other neo-Orthodox theologians. Sometimes Blaise Pascal is sort of thrown into the existentialist camp as well. And what the existentialist is doing is he's exploring the human condition, our existence, hence the word existentialism. What is the meaning of our existence? Why are we here? And what is it that leads us to despair? And our existentialist theologians, especially since Kierkegaard and Barth, have pointed out that without God, life is despairing. Life is meaningless without a God. And therefore, what the existentialist does is he sort of wants to shock the audience into despairing of any hope except in God. A great book in the Bible that kind of explores an existential apologetic, it would be the book of Ecclesiastes. Vanity, vanity, all is vanity, says the preacher. And the preacher goes through a series of pursuits to try to find meaning in life, only to come to despair. And at the end of the book, he says, really the only hope in life is to trust in God and obey His commandments. And you can look at Soren Kierkegaard, for example, as a modern sort of preacher in that Old Testament sense. He's trying to shock a dead orthodoxy, which is consumed with propositions and rational arguments for God and proofs for this or critiques of that. He's trying to shock that dead orthodoxy into a living, vibrant faith. Unless you really give your life over to God, your life is meaningless and your Christian claims are a farce. Now, it's interesting that I would throw existentialism into the apologetics soup, because existentialists have actually been some of the best critics of doing a rational apologetic in the first place. They would not really be all that happy with Reasons to Believe, or William Lane Craig's ministry, or Norman Geisler's writings, because they would see those of us who enjoy a rational apologetic as too rationalistic. You know, God cannot be discovered at the end of a syllogism, as they would say, or at the end of an argument. God is a living reality that we have to experience, and we can't put Him in a test tube to study. I think, therefore, this is a great breath of fresh air for those of us who do enjoy a rational apologetic. We have to keep reminding ourselves that what we're dealing with is a living God who cannot be put into a box and studied in the way we would study a chemical reaction or the stars in the sky or an historical document. But I do think that the weakness of the existential system is the fact that at the end of the day, the existentialists can't really offer us a reason for embracing the Christian God over, say, the Muslim God. A few years ago, two Mormon missionaries came to my home, and as they sat in my office, I asked them, "Why do you think that the Book of Mormon is the Word of God?" At that point, the Mormon missionary says, "Well, I have a burning bosom in my heart that tells me that the Book of Mormon is true," which is a kind of existentialist type answer, to which I said, "How do you know that's not an acute case of gas?" I mean, why think that your feelings about whether God exists are really true? And why can't the Muslim theologian say the same thing about his word? The Quran is the Word of God because I feel a burning bosom in my soul. We have to have something more than just feeling to establish that one religion is true and not another. And so I think among all the existentialists that I've mentioned, I may have mentioned Blaise Pascal when I started off talking about existentialism. If I haven't, I would say Blaise Pascal's approach is the best, because what he did is he did give that sort of existential shock into making people realize, you know, life is serious, life is despairing without God. But then Blaise Pascal did go on to offer evidences for the Christian faith.